Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on Friday, the 3rd of July. Sorry. Hope you're having a hope you had a wonderful week and the weekend is nearly here, and that means sport. Absolutely. Yes, we have netball tonight, as well as the basketball and also the rugby this weekend. And we'll be getting into all of that. And let's kick off first off with our football update. And West Ham United beat Chelsea 3-2. Some fun there on social media as the mobile phone company, had become Chelsea's t-shirt sponsor and said, hey, 3 is a magic number before the game. And unfortunately, that's how many goals they let in. Also, Sheffield United beat Tottenham Hotspur 3-1 as well. Over in the Belarusian Premier League, yes, our favourite league, tonight Slavia will play Sluts and Smolovici will host Dynamo Brest. So I'll bring you those results tomorrow morning on the morning sports briefing at 7 a.m. because that's the time we come to you every single day of the week. Moving on now, I'm going to hand you over to Stephen Harris, who will take us through our birthdays.
Yes, good morning, Paul, and good morning, everybody.
Birthday had sound, but unfortunately, it looks like something. Yep,
there,
Paul? He's here.
Oh, yeah, no,
yeah, we're here.
It's still there. I was always there. I was never gone, but I'm back again. In birthdays this morning, arguably New Zealand's greatest cricketer, the man nicknamed the Nine Express, and finally a footballer with Maori ancestry that played age group football for Denmark. Winston Widemu Reid, born this day, the 3rd of July 1988, is a New Zealand professional footballer who plays as a defender for Sporting Kansas City on loan from English Premier League club West Ham United. He also captains the New Zealand national team, the All Whites. Both Reid's parents have Māori ancestry. He affiliates to Tainui through his father and Te Arawa through his mother. He was born on the North Shore, Auckland, but moved from New Zealand to Denmark at the age of 10 with his mother and Danish stepfather. He always maintained contact with his father and family in New Zealand. Reid played at under 19, under 20, and under 21 level for Denmark before debuting for New Zealand in 2010. Now, we've got a couple of real treats for you this morning and our other two birthdays. Ewan John Chatfield, MBE, born this day, the 3rd of July 1950, is a former New Zealand cricketer who played 43 tests and 114 one-day internationals. A medium pace bowler, his chief weapon was his accuracy, giving him economical bowling figures with the ball. Chatfield, who was nicknamed the Nine Express, distinguished himself with the efforts against the West Indies, the leading cricketing side of the day on tour in 84-85, and in the home series which New Zealand drew in 86-87. He was also a member of the New Zealand cricket sides which achieved the country's first test wins against England and Australia home and away. Chatfield spent much of his career as the bowling partner to Sir Richard Hadlee. Coincidentally, the pair share the same birthday through Chatfield is 1 year Hadley's senior. And speaking of that other man that he paired up with, Sir Richard John Hadlee, MBE, born this day, the 3rd of July 1951, is a New Zealand former cricketer, regarded as one of the greatest fast bowlers and all-rounders in cricketing history. Hadlee was appointed MBE in 1980 and knighted in 1990 for services to cricket. He is a former chairman of the New Zealand Board of Selections. In December 2002, he was chosen by Wisden as the second greatest test match bowler of all time. In March 2009, Hadlee was commemorated as one of 12 local heroes, and a bronze bust of him was unveiled outside Christchurch Arts Centre. On the 3rd of July 2009, Sir Richard Hadlee was inducted into the ICC Cricket Hall of Fame. Sir Richard is the most prominent member of the cricketing Hadlee family, and there were a few of them. He also had a brother, Dale, that played around the same time, and of course his father, Sir Walter Hadley as well. So cricketing running through the blood of the Hadley family. I'll be back with a bumper edition, Paul, of rugby league news very, very shortly.
Thank you very much, Stephen, and boy, what a party that must have been in the for the cricket team when those two had their birthdays. But yes, wow, big people today in the birthdays. Moving on to rugby news and Sky Sports. Well, someone there put out a tweet which basically gave away what the schedule is going to be for the rest of the year, folks. So Super Rugby Aotearoa will obviously finish up on the 14th. But what's also going to happen is we have obviously that north-south game on the was it 29th of August. Sorry, it's small in my caption. Minus 10 Cup kicks off on the 11th of September. But the real big news is there are 4 Bledisloe Cup games coming. They're going to be on the 10th and 17th of October and the 1st and 6th of November. Obviously, the way they are paired up would suggest that they're going to have 2 in one country and 2 in the other. But at the moment, we don't know which way round they will be. The tweet has been deleted, folks. So clearly, someone got ahead of themselves, but probably was scheduling something and accidentally pressed publish by accident. But there you go. That's out there now. So we're looking at 4 Bledisloe Cup games, 2 in October and 2 in November. The way we can tell that those is they use the Bledisloe Cup, a little symbol of the cup itself, which was the big giveaway. Brett Impey has also said that Super Rugby Aotearoa in its current competition is unsustainable, but they're keeping an open mind as to what the future could look like, whether that would include a Trans-Tasman competition or extending the number of New Zealand teams. So lots of options are on the table, and it's so if anyone says that this is what's going to happen, I think it's all just rumours, and we'll have to see what will happen next year. Moving on then, in Super Rugby, unfortunately, Scott Barrett now could be out for up to 4 months. If you think, so that's not only is that the end of Super Rugby for him, but that could be the end of his season as well. So we wish Scott Barrett a speedy recovery. Cullen Grace is also likely to miss the rest of the the rest of Super Rugby. Hugh in our live chat says, does the schedule of the Bledisloe Cup games add credibility to the rumour of Japan and Fiji may play the Six Nations teams in a 8 team competition in November? And you'd have to say yes, it does. Clearly, the All Blacks have decided that they're not going to Europe, or that's not going to happen, and hence why they've put those Bledisloe Cup games in place instead. You'd have to say it's disappointing that Australia and New Zealand didn't reach out to their Pacific neighbours in Japan, Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, and try and set up something similar to what they have done over in the Northern Hemisphere. And then finally, in Super Rugby news, we've got the return of Simon Hickey. Has been signed up by the Hurricanes, the ex-Auckland and Blues player who's been overseas playing for Edinburgh, is returning home and will be adding to the depth at number 10 for the Hurricanes. A bit shame that the Hurricanes there didn't reach out to Hawke's Bay and look at their young number 10 over there. We've seen some young 10s doing really, really well, but there we go. Don't forget that tonight at 8 p.m. we will be bringing you the Super Rugby weekend preview, where we'll cover round 4 in Super Rugby Aotearoa and also round 1 of Super Rugby AU or Super Rugby Australia, as well as that kicks off this evening. So Don't forget to hit like on your on the Facebook page, or you can listen to us on the go. Just search for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcatcher, be that iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, or Acast. And I'll hand you back now to Stephen, who will take us through our NRL update.
Oh, thank you, Paul, and good morning again, everybody. In league news this morning, Warriors players feeling like they've been torn a new one by the NRL. And, of course, last night's game, billed as the game of the heavy hitters. Well, it's being talked about as the game of the century, but we're going to start with the Warriors this morning. The Warriors players have felt duped by the NRL into thinking there would be no issues in getting their families to join them in Australia. David Fusitua, Ken Mamalo, Ignatius Pasi, beg your pardon, Leivaha Pulu, all want to return to New Zealand to reunite with their families, with the players agreeing to a July 19 deadline on whether there will be confirmation that their families can go to Australia. The players have been criticised by some for looking to walk away for the rest of the season, leaving the rest of the team in the lurch. However, information that has been leaked can reveal that there were false promises made to the Warriors players back in May by the NRL when discussions took place about the team relocating to Australia. The players were told then there wouldn't be an issue getting their families to the other side of the Tasman. When the NRL launched its Project Apollo to get the season back underway, it desperately needed to keep the Warriors involved. So there remained 8 games each round, and broadcasting commitments to Nine Entertainment and Fox could be fulfilled. When discussions between the Warriors and the players and the NRL took place, the players were told that there wouldn't be any problem getting exemptions for players and their families into Australia. However, the NRL, during the time when Todd Greenberg was CEO, told the club that players and families shouldn't be part of the same exemption application to get into Australia, that this would make it harder to get approval. So it just seems to me they actually made promises that they really couldn't keep at the time. But I'll tell you what, speaking of promising and promises, it promised to be a huge game last night, and exactly what we got. It was billed as the game of the round, but it will go down as the game of the century, as the Melbourne Storm and the Sydney Roosters played out an absolute thriller at Suncorp Stadium last night. The Melbourne secured the win with a penalty 4 minutes into extra time, 27-25, after the Roosters had led 12-6 at halftime. This really was rugby league at its best. Both teams started the first half at breakneck speed, so there was no surprise when the first 2 tries were both scored off errors, with both teams attempting to spread the ball. Kyle Flanagan scoring from the Roosters after the Storm move broke down, and very much the same as Josh Adokar scored from long range, showed a clean pair of heels. Just when it looked like both teams would be locked up at halftime, Josh Morris scored 3 minutes before half time when Tupou, the winger, took a cross kick from Kerry. With the conversion, that gave the Roosters a 12-6 lead. How could these two teams match what had already been an incredible half of rugby league? Incredibly, things were only starting to warm up. The Storm leveled things up at 12 apiece when halfback Hughes sprinted away from 40 metres out. The Roosters, Morris brothers, both scored tries on the 55th minute and the 69th minute for where the real drama was about to start. Up 22 in the final 10 minutes, the Storm added 2 more tries of their own, a second to Hughes and then a converted Medovitsky try to give the Storm the lead, 24-22 with 5 minutes to play, and it was the Roosters that needed to hit back. When rookie half Kyle Flanagan slotted a clutch penalty to level the scores, the game looked destined to go to Golden Point. It turned out this match still had plenty in its script. With less than a minute to go, Luke Kearney slotted a field goal from 30 metres out to give the Roosters a precious 1-point lead. The Storm needed to win that kickoff, and that's exactly what they did. Rugby style kickoff. They competed for the ball, and that lead, like I say, only lasted to the final whistle, with the Storm winning a short kickoff before young fullback Ryan Pappenhausen slotted a field goal to send the game to Golden Point. Wow. A penalty in the 4th minute of extra time decided the game after Jake Friend for the Roosters was pinged for interfering in the play of the ball right in front of the post. Absolutely amazing. That final score again, Storm 27, Roosters 25. Now, for me, what made this game was the attempt from both teams to actually move the ball as opposed to just eating yardage there, Paul. So it just made for a wonderful, wonderful spectacle, and probably one of the best games I've ever seen in rugby league for a very long time. If you've missed this game, get to a replay. It really is worth a watch. It was breakneck in the first half, and it just continued through that second half. Now, in games this evening, the 7th placed Canberra Raiders host the 12th place St George Dragons at Geo Stadium in Canberra. Kickoff is at 8 p.m. New Zealand time, and in our final game, they were the top of the table Eagles, but they've now been superseded by the Storm, who have gone to the top of the table. But the Parramatta Eagles in second host the 10th place North Queensland Cowboys at Bankwest Stadium at 9:55 p.m. Remembering those times are actually New Zealand times. So what a great night in rugby league last night, Paul. I am absolutely still buzzing about that game. I stayed up a little bit late to watch it, but it was absolutely well worth it. Rugby league at its best.
Wow, amazing game there over in the NRL, Stephen, as you say. So, folks, yeah, if you've not seen it, that's one to have a search for and get a replay on by the sounds of things. Hughes says that Canberra and Parramatta are his tips for tonight. So, folks, let us know in the live chat who you think are going to win the games this evening. Thank you very much, Stephen, for that NRL update. Don't forget, folks, you are listening to New Zealand Sports Radio. Moving on then to the NZNBL, the basketball here in New Zealand. And the Otago Nuggets went down and lost 79-85 to the Franklin Bulls. That's the second loss on the bounce for the Otago Nuggets after winning their opening 2 games. And the Franklin Bulls have now put 2 wins back to back. You've got to say for the Franklin Bulls that Timmins was the man, 24 points and 12 rebounds there. So a big game from him. And that followed up with another upset with the Canterbury Rams going down 90-97 to the Nelson Giants. Again, the Canterbury Rams, after 3 wins on the trot, have now lost 2 back-to-back. And the table really has tightened up now. We have the Canterbury Rams still remain top of the table with the Taranaki Mountaineers in second. Both those teams have a record of 3-2. And also the Franklin Bulls. So the Rams, Airs, and Bulls all have a 3-2 record. The Nuggets and the Jets have a 2-2 record. So they've still got a game to play. They could get on the same level as those teams ahead of them. And then the Nelson Giants have a 2-3 record, just 1 win behind. The Auckland Huskies currently sit at the bottom of the table with a 1-3 record. Down there having some time off to hopefully regather themselves after they picked up their first win ever. Remember, they're an expansion team this season. Moving on then to the America's Cup. And the government has stopped America's Cup funding while it carries out an investigation about what's going on over there. There was these contractors who got who got removed from the or were ace contractors who were leaking things. We had some money perhaps going to a Hungarian bank account when it shouldn't have done. So they're taking an investigation as to everything that's going on before continuing the funds. Over on that side, but clearly on the water, the sailors just want to go as fast as possible, and they're trying to put that all in the back of their minds. So yes, that's all sorts of things happening off the water at the moment, and it does look like the American Magic boat, when it was put in the water, had been modified with some of the designs that we've seen in the on the New Zealand boat. So yes, all the teams are at the moment really trying to get their boats up to speed with very little testing. This evening in the netball in the NZ Premiership, we have the Mystics versus the Tactics at the Auckland Netball Centre over in St John's at 7 p.m. Don't forget, folks, that this will be the final round where all. Oh, sorry, no. The next. Sorry, there's a couple more rounds that are all up in Auckland before they start playing around the country. But so, folks, if you want to get your netball fix, do get down there before and they start heading off around the country. This is a big game because it is second versus third in the table. So a big game between the Mystics and the Tactics. The Mystics really need this win to keep pressure on the Central Pulse, who are who will be playing back-to-back games this weekend on Saturday and Sunday. First up, they face the Steel on Saturday, and then the Magic on Sunday. Obviously, we'll bring you updates on all of those games here on New Zealand Sports Radio via the morning sports briefing tomorrow at 7 a.m. Don't forget, as I say, you can watch us. You can listen to us also on the go. Just download the podcast, search for New Zealand Sports Radio on your favourite podcatcher, be it iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spotify, or Acast. You have now started the day the best way, up to date with all the important sports news. Have a wonderful day, folks. The weekend is almost here.